the worst thing that anybody's ever done to you? Have you been able to forgive them? Well, Jo Tufnell's father was killed by an IRA bomber in Brighton. This is her story of her journey to forgiveness.
My father was a Tory MP, Conservative MP, and he was attending the party political conference in Brighton in '84 in October. And on the second or third day there was a bomb that went off early in the morning, and he was killed, and my stepmother was injured, and there were 5 other people killed, and many, many injured. I heard the news, I was in London, and heard the news first thing in the morning there'd been a bomb, and after about 8 hours of waiting, heard that he was one of the bodies they'd found. Very soon after the bomb went off, I wanted to bring something positive out of the tragedy, out of the trauma, and somehow help bring peace. I felt like it was a choice I had. I could either stay a victim and become bitter and hardened, or go on a journey in which I would somehow bring something positive out of the terrible, terrible trauma. And about in '85, we had a name, someone, Patrick McGee, who was arrested and charged and went to prison. And while he was in prison, I did an article for a newspaper and said, one day I would like to meet Patrick and hear his story. Many years went by and I forgot about that. And then about 3-4 years ago, he came out of prison as part of the Good Friday Peace Agreement. And around that time, I relived the whole day as if it was happening for the first time, and began to deal with some of the trauma which I actually hadn't dealt with. That took me to Northern Ireland, and I met many people. Forgiveness, for me, is now a journey rather than a moment that I've experienced and then finished with. And forgiveness is a choice that I can make every day, whether to forgive or whether to not. With Patrick, what he's taught me, it's actually about, can I open my heart enough to hear his story, to see his humanity, to carry on being open to him, or am I going to close down? And some days I want to close down because it hurts too much, and that's fine. Patrick has come a long way from the moment he set up the bomb. He now feels that there was a terrible cost, a legacy of taking up violence, and part of that was he lost some of his humanity. He had to see my dad as a legitimate target in order to plant that bomb. He wasn't seeing real human beings. For me, that strategy involved totally causing my life to be in a million pieces. So, that still hurts, that he feels it was a good strategy, it was a good bomb. For me, it was not a good bomb. But I can understand why he came to that place. And I think I feel responsible as an English person for being part of the community, the society that led to the people, Republicans, having no voice. I think there are deep causes of why people become terrorists, why people take up violence. So I want to understand that. But in terms of whether he deserves my forgiveness, I think he deserves a chance to get his humanity back. So my aim is to see his humanity and everyone else's humanity. But that's a constant struggle. And some days I succeed and some days I don't. And also Patrick, I can sometimes get annoyed with him, and then things can get very difficult inside me because there's a voice which says, well, how can you trust him? They killed your father. And then I go way down. So I have to constantly watch myself and always see that I am letting go of the part of me that wants to blame and understand him. But it's a lot of inner work that I'm doing. I do meet many people who are very surprised, and some people are angry about it and threatened, and some people are very surprised and say, well, I'm sure I couldn't do that. But actually, there's no way I can't do it, because I find it's actually transforming the pain and the grief that I felt that makes me do this. If I didn't do this, I'd be left with the difficult feelings. But it's the difficult feelings I have that I transform into this energy and passion to be part of a world where violence isn't seen as an acceptable solution. So I use my trauma, I use all the pain to change, to transform. So it's connected to my trauma, it comes out of my suffering. But I found a way of making it actually work for me. And part of that is being with Pat. And I actually regard it as a gift now, that he is so open to working with me, however difficult it is. I do see it as a gift.
Nobody said forgiveness was going to be simple. I tell you, you think of the story of Jo, with her dad's killer released. And she has to live with this now. As she put it, it's a journey.